Public opinion at home demanded bigger and better. The battleship Dreadnought and battlecruiser Invincible set new standards that the rest of the world had to follow. It was an era in which the mine, the torpedo, and the devil's device, the submarine, became far more menacing. Britain won the naval race with Germany, but that race helped lead to war in 1914. Sparked by the assassination of a European royal and bolstered by a belief in their own invincibility, men rushed headlong into the war to end all wars. The carefree sailors of the mighty Gneisenau and her sister Scharnhorst would soon be lost, along with their ships, in the icy waters off the Falkland Islands, sunk by the battlecruisers of Admiral Doveton Sturdy. The war on land became a struggle between great armies of more or less equal strength. After a year of conflict, British and French battleships bombarded Turkish ports in the Dardanelles in an attempt to break through to Constantinople and force a surrender. But the battleships struck mines and withdrew from the Narrows to support later landings, achieved despite strong opposition. In epic voyages through the minefields of the Narrows, British underwater craft stole into the Sea of Marmara and wreaked havoc with enemy shipping. Elsewhere at sea, apart from cruiser actions, the might of the Royal Navy remained at anchor in Scapa Flow, while its admiral, Jellico, fretted for decisive action. Finally, on 31st of May 1916, the might of the British Grand Fleet and the German High Seas Fleet met off Jutland. The biggest battle since Trafalgar was about to begin. Beatty, commanding the battle cruisers, sighted the main German fleet and skillfully led it back onto the guns of the British Grand Fleet. Admiral Jellico formed his ships into a line, and the Germans sailed into the trap. The battle had begun. The British scored more hits, yet lost more ships than the Germans. Their shells exploded outside the German armor. The British ships proved more prone to explosions than their counterparts, as German shells started disastrous ammunition fires. After his second monster had blown up, Beatty was moved to say to Chatfield, his flagship's captain, "There seems to be something wrong with our bloody ships today." The British fire control systems were unable to cope when the range was changing rapidly, as it was in the early part of the battle. Jellico was trying to control a 20th century battle with telescopes and signal flags. Courage and discipline were overshadowed by technology. The British went into this battle believing they were invincible. The crucial factor was that the Germans agreed with them. Twice the Germans tried to break through. Twice they had to turn back after a serious battering. The spirit of Nelson appeared to be fighting alongside the Royal Navy a century after Trafalgar, and the German fleet ran for home under cover of darkness. The British were bitterly disappointed, but they had signaled to the Germans that their high seas fleet was too weak to challenge the full might of the Royal Navy. The German Navy decided that a different approach was necessary. In early 1917, Germany's submarines, the infamous U-boats, were unleashed once more on the merchant ships that brought in Britain's vital food and raw materials. The orders were, sink on sight. The Germans had tried this policy earlier in the war, but had desisted when the Americans threatened war following the sinking of passenger ships like the Lusitania. Now the Germans were willing to face the risk of American hostility. Merchant shipping losses increased dramatically. Jellico, now First Sea Lord, told the government that Britain was facing defeat.